What's good, Outlaws? It's your boy, the Truth 777. Hey, look, I'm about to do several videos. Definitely going to get more consistent with the videos, but uh, I wanted to talk about PlayStation and where my head is at with PlayStation. First of all, I've done periodical video, periodical, periodic, periodic videos where I've had talked about the state of gaming and things like that. And from even the last video, you would know and understand that, like, I've been happy with my PlayStation 5. I just haven't been impressed with the showing of my PlayStation 5. And what that means is that the showcases and the state of plays have just been so mid. Like, they always have a good point of interest that I'm like, oh, that's kind of really cool, or that's extremely dope. Like, Death Stranding 2 was just what I've been looking for graphically from these games for so long. So was Grand Theft Auto's reveal. So um there's that, right? But it just hasn't been a lot of that from anybody, from Xbox, from Nintendo, of course not from Nintendo, and definitely not from PlayStation at a high level. Horizon Zero Dawn, for me specifically, I enjoy Gran Turismo 7 and it looks amazing, but it's a racer. That's how, like, racers don't get a lot of from me a lot of credence. But what I wanted to say though is that PlayStation, man, they had the right idea. We know Jim Ryan had the right idea with making some kind of microtransaction games, because factually, PlayStation doesn't make a lot of microtransaction games, and their franchises don't hold the same weight and validity that Nintendo does. And in order for them to get that validity with their first party franchises, they would have to pull a Nintendo, which is cutting off third party. The best thing that could have ever happened to Nintendo was them was third party being cut off, because it allowed their franchises to be the forefront. If you look back to Nintendo, where their franchises have always sold well, but when they had third party at a heavy rate, they didn't sell anywhere close to what they're doing now. What do I mean? Like, their franchises have always done phenomenal. Do not get me twisted. The first Mario sold, not the very first Mario, not the one where they're actually in the plumber tunnel, and not Donkey Kong. Not Donkey Kong, which is the first Donkey Kong we had Mario in it, and not the Mario Brothers game where they're in the tunnels and you like jump on the little platforms. It's just like one stage. You know what I'm saying? You can run from one side of the screen and come back out on the other type stuff. I'm talking about the Mario that every Super Mario, I mean the regular Mario Brothers game that everybody remembers. That sold 50 million copies at that time, because there was a copy given with every Nintendo, and that's how they counted the copies being sold. Um, I'm pretty sure they calculated that into the price of the system, so they actually sold every Mario. But even then, Zelda did phenomenal and things like that. But you weren't doing 40, 50 million copies of I mean, you know what I'm saying? 40, 50 million every Nintendo franchise. And no, they're not doing that now, but they're doing around about that, right? So Animal Crossing did like 40, 50 million. Mario Kart, you know what I'm saying? Like, their franchises don't get that, but that is because they don't have a lot of third party competition. Now we're going to see how the Switch 2 pans out and things like that. But again, the games will be such, probably to me, dumbed down or not as good versions of the ones that are on PC, PlayStation, and the remainder of the Xbox, that their French first party franchises will still probably hold weight. Plus, they train their players to care mainly only about their first party franchises. So we'll see how that turns out. Getting back to PlayStation, they would have to cut third party off in order to garner that type of first party love. And I don't know if their first party could hold that type of weight as Nintendo without third party or not. And we just know they're not going to do that, because Fortnite and them brings them buttloads of money. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. At the end of the day, right? Uh, Sony does really well with their first party while competing with everyone else. Um, Sony does a really good job of getting third party exclusives and second party exclusives and all, and indie exclusives and all those things. They do a very good job of having a service with PlayStation Plus, with the PlayStation Plus service, that actually is very beneficial for those gamers that don't want to buy games, right? And has patience. Being that they were the second, well, first between Xbox and Nintendo, right? They were the first. in the console market, because they bought Guy Convent on Live, and they were the actual first, as far as I know, to do a service like that um, in the mainstream. And so, being that they're the first, but then Game Pass came out and made PlayStation Now so much better, and Xbox coming out with Xbox Online had PlayStation Plus, the original Plus, where they just gave you free games and made you pay for online. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Xbox having such phenomenal online. And then you got Games with Gold because of that. You know what I mean? Games with Gold came out because PlayStation was doing pretty well with, hey, we'll give you these 2 or 3 free games with Plus because we have such a crappy online service. So they can't do the Nintendo thing. They would love to do the Microsoft thing, uh, but not the way Microsoft is doing it. They would love to do the Microsoft thing in a Sony way, but they can't afford it, right? So being that they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, they came out and said, "Hey, we need a Fortnite. We need our own Madden, our own FIFA or soccer, whatever, 2K, Grand Theft Auto Online. We need our own version of that." And I think that that was a phenomenal idea. I truly do think that that was a very smart idea. The execution was just so porous and so trash that they basically have taken L after L, and it's completely hurt their brand. And being that Xbox just had no clue what they're doing, Xbox literally saved them. You know what I mean? PlayStation didn't need Xbox, but Xbox not going in and attacking them and going super hard on the exclusives and things of that nature, which will probably uh, got them back in the fight. I don't think they would ever have won, but I think they would have gotten back in the fight and maybe even put them on top for a little while. But because they bowed out, it allowed PlayStation to be able to coast on all their mistakes, um, which is just weird because Xbox had a chance to really show their fangs. But PlayStation just, they made terrible mistakes on putting their first party studios who probably had the talent to make these type of games, but just didn't probably want to. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think any of those studios wanted to become a Fortnite type studios because then that's all you do. You don't get to do anything else. You know what I mean? You're stuck with that. Become a Madden or a Call of Duty or anything like that. And Jim Ryan was right. Losing Call of Duty would have done irreparable damage. But I think people take irreparable damage as in Sony would have died. You got people like Carlin Moriarty out here talking about, oh, Sony's so heavy relying on PlayStation. And it's like, dude, you could tell people that don't know what they're talking about. Like, and Colin is an extremely smart man. So the fact that he says that is mind boggling to me. Like, PlayStation being like 30% of your business is not, it is irreparable damage if you lost PlayStation for sure, but it's not the end all be all. You know what I mean? The way they talk, you would think PlayStation is 50 to 70% of Sony's business, and it's not. It's not even close. Like the highest I think it's ever been is like 31% at any given time and then lower. So I don't understand the logic that that Porter Rock, and that's my boy, I'll be on the show with him, but a lot of these guys have with the Sony so reliant on PlayStation. It's like, no, Sony losing PlayStation would do extreme damage, but Sony would still be fine. That's a fact. They're not Nintendo. Where Nintendo loses the Nintendo, toys aren't as relevant anymore. You know what I mean? So maybe they'll be able to survive off the game cards and stuff like that. What Pokemon Company is doing, but Nintendo will fairly be dead if they lose the Nintendo. You know what I mean? Majority of their business is just that. You know what I mean? I don't think they would be 100% dead, but pretty much like they'd be left with like 10 or 20% of what their actual business model is. Cause again, they can sell plushies and things like that, but toys aren't selling at the level that people need them to anymore for it to carry the weight it does. That's why you don't really have as many toy stores like Toys R Us and KB Toys and any other toy store you can think about, right? And even in Walmart and Targets and stuff, the toy sections aren't really that big, like if we're being honest, right? Not like it used to be. There used to be whole Walmart type stores for just toys in itself. So what I feel like is that they had a smart idea and they should continue with the idea. They just need to execute it better. Jim Ryan didn't know what he was doing. I don't think Jim Ryan knew what he's doing as far as the gaming side went. And I don't think Herman Host knows what he's doing as far as the gaming side went. As I've said before, I don't like Herman Host. I don't know, something about him, the way he looks. I don't know the dude. He just comes off as an arrogant prick. That's just my feeling. But I feel like he can get things done. I think Herman Host truly does know engines, though. I feel like Herman Host is more of an engineer than a game designer. You see what I'm saying? Like he understands game engines. Look at Death Stranding 2. Look at Horizon Forbidden West. Like they understand game engines and things that make people go ooh and ah and actually still be a good game. But as far as what an actual good game is, I don't think Herman Host understands that at all, to be honest with you. And I think that was seen with the game that got killed, the first person shooter. I can't even think of it right now. I thought it was a very well made game. Like I said, Herman Host has a good thing. It looked graphically really good. To me, was it impressive? No, but was it up there in the standards of games that look really good, first person shooters, multiplayer? Yep. The maps are okay. Uh, and the characters and the gunplay was straight. I didn't have an issue with the character models or nothing. I didn't think they were like, ooh, super cool, but I didn't think they were terrible either. That's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, they took an L, you know what I mean? Because Herman Host doesn't know like Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong Bonanza, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't know what Mario Kart is and Zelda. He doesn't know like gameplay, things that make the games incredibly fun. The other studios are going to be fine. It's just going to take them a long time to get the ball rolling. And I truly do hope the PlayStation 6 comes out in 2029 because then I will feel as if the PlayStation 5, I'm going to actually get what I want out of it because I think 2026 is really when the ball will get rolling on PlayStation Studios dropping one behind the other. And I don't think it'll just be one major game a year from their first party. I think it'll be several major games a year, but they're only guaranteeing one. It's just like how a company will tell you, hey, we're going to send you something back within 7 to 10 business days, even though they know it's only going to take four. But just in case something happens, it gets lost, or it got to come back to you, they give themselves some leeway. So that's what I think PlayStation is at. I think they got some amazing deals coming out, like that Marvel Token Fighter game. That joint's gonna be fire. And I think that's going to be a huge hit for them as far as the microtransactions. I don't think that game is going to sell 10 or 15 million. I think that game in totality, factually, will sell somewhere between 5 to 6 million because it's a fighter. Like if we're being honest, it's a fighter. You know what I mean? Fighters aren't going to sell crazy. The best fighters aren't going to sell, crazy. But it being Marvel, it being the company that makes it, I can't remember. I am blanking out a lot, but the company that makes it that does a great job on fighters, one of the best, if not the best fighting game company, um, then it should do, you know, at least 5 million, at least 5 million, 7 million at max. That's my opinion, especially if they're going to use the whole Marvel universe, and I mean the real Marvel universe, the comic book universe, no name characters and all that stuff, pick characters that don't people ain't never heard of, thought about, or anything like that, as ways to get microtransactions. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you buy this character pack and this character pack and this character singly, and these maybe color scheme. Here's a $5 for the color schemes, all this, you know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna milk it. You know what I mean? But I think it'll be such a Arc System Works. That's what it is. Arc System Works will do such a phenomenal job that it's not gonna matter. Um, you're gonna get people that's gonna always complain, but at the end of the day, it'll be a phenomenal game. It'll be in that Helldiver space, which I put it in that low bar tier of microtransaction games, ones that'll really last a good 4 or 5 years, that has that's not doing great crazy numbers. You can have a bunch of players, but I'm talking about like microtransaction wise. Like you can't tell me. Maybe it is, but fact the way I see it, I don't think Sea of Thieves is doing crazy numbers. You know what I mean, microtransaction wise. But I think it's doing good enough to stay alive, grounded, not doing crazy numbers microtransaction wise. Now, when I say crazy numbers, I do not mean that these games aren't successful. I just mean they're not Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, or anything like that. I'm talking about like WWE 2K, that doesn't do crazy numbers microtransaction wise, but it does good enough. You know what I mean? Uh, and so with that being the case, I think the Marvel Token Fighters, Helldivers, games like that, Sony will have a lot of middle tier, middling games, microtransactions that will last somewhere between 3 to 5 years. You know what I mean? Like I don't see Helldivers lasting, more than another 3 or 4 years, if that. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. Before they move on and they make a new game or whatever, or they come out with a new microtransaction game. But Sony is going to have to figure this out. I think they should acquire a couple more studios, not publishers, just a few more studios. And I think they should bring Shuhei back. If you go, if for nothing else, bring Shuhei back to acquire studios. If you're going to acquire studios, you let Shuhei do the studio acquiring because Shuhei understands video games. He is a true to life gamer. He is somebody that not only plays them but understands them. He understands the Nintendo gameplay. He understands the PlayStation cinematic universes, and he understands the the Xbox uh, multiplayer. Like he does understand all those things, and he knows how to let studios do their thing. So even if he don't come back to be the head of the studios, which I still would love for him to come back and him just to do it to his last breath, or until he really just becomes a net at it. Uh, just let him come back and figure out what studios they need to acquire to get some multiplayer games going. You know what I mean? Um, or let them build a few teams. So we'll see how that goes. They definitely need a banger. They need a multiplayer hit. I don't think they need. It would be great if they can get a Fortnite, right? But I don't care about that. Like I don't care about Fortnite at all. I don't care about Call of Duty. I don't care about Grand Theft Auto. Like none of those games do anything for me. Grand Theft Auto was fun before it became an online venture. Uh, Once it became an online venture, I kind of fell off. I know it has a great single player and people gonna love single player, but it's just the online venture that just turned me off and how heavy it was implemented to it. So with that being said, I think Sony needs to acquire some studios. Just not nothing crazy though. They don't need uh 4,000 person studio. They just need a Helldivers type studio, you know what I mean, to get the ball rolling and then let them build as the game blows up. As the game blows up, you let them build and add more to their team slowly, though. Don't just bring a bunch of people in because you want to keep up with demand and all that stuff. Like, bring people in that's going to let you keep up with demand the proper way. But these companies greedy, they're not going to care about that. The bottom line is they absolutely 100% unequivocally need a microtransaction games. A couple of them, Sea of Thieves games, a couple Sea of Thieves games would do them wonders. Factually, a couple, you know, WWE 2K games. You know what I mean? Those low tier games. If they got a couple of those, they'd be fine. They wouldn't be great, but they'd be fine. So that I do give Sony for that. I think they need to let their other studios get back to them. If they happen to buy Warner Brothers, that'll help their first party with the first party multiplayer games. But none of the Warner Brother gaming studios make multiplayer games. That Suicides went to the birds and damn near killed the studio. So let them make their first party games. If you're gonna buy Warner Brothers, then you probably ain't gonna be able to buy no other small studios. Maybe buy a couple indies that are trying to make a multiplayer game. Like what is not Starfield? That space game that came out with the indie team that was terrible and then ended up being exactly what that man wanted. And now they're making some little fairy game. I cannot remember what the game is called. But anyway, yeah, get an indie team that's doing something creative, brand new that may surprise the world so that you can get you a Fortnite. You know what I mean? And that's most likely how you're going to be able to get that multiplayer game. But outside of that, I have no issue with how the PlayStation 5 works. If the PlayStation 6 comes out in 2029, 2028, it is what it is. 2029 is preferable, but if it comes out in 2028, as long as in these last 26, 27, 28, I guess like a bunch of bangers that should have been out last year or at least a year and a half from now, I'll be quite pleased with my PlayStation because for the most part, I've been quite pleased with the PlayStation, how it runs, the games it's had. I've enjoyed them. They just haven't had anything that had my mouth like, oh my goodness, like, oh, this is crazy. Death Stranding. I just want to showcase where it's like a good 5 or 6 of them joints, you know what I mean? Where like it's like, oh man, this don't make no sense. So Outside of that, next up is Xbox. Um, actually, no. Actually, sorry. I was going to drop the video. I do want to say this. Um, PlayStation, Xbox really did PlayStation a solid by bowing out and trying to change their strategy to something that's more beneficial to Microsoft. Because again, as I said, PlayStation would have had a heap of trouble and had to again call their way back from the depths, like the PlayStation 3, if Xbox would have went full tyrant and said no Call of Duty for you, blah blah blah. Um, it would have hurt their pockets and it would have forced them to really uh put their head down and grind back. But that's the one thing I do like about Sony. Sony knows how to correct themselves when they're put in their place. You know what I mean? They don't usually make the mistakes when they fail. You know what I mean? When they fail and they fail bad and hard, they usually correct the mistakes. Lastly, I do want to say this because it I don't know. I don't know how people would take it. It might be like a negative thing. It wasn't a negative. It's just what the to me what the facts are and some of the things that I believe to be true. Uh but if you're a PlayStation owner, this has been a fun ride. You know what I mean? If you're a PS5 owner, this has been a fun ride. You've never been on a ride where PlayStation has been so trash in their presentations. You know what I mean? And they keep hearing all these things in the background that never come to fruition. You know, they show games that are literally 15 years out. Wolverine, you know what I mean? Uh, Pragmata and things like that. You know, this has happened where it's been 4 or 5 years out, the game disappears. It's not like it's unheard of, but uh not when they aren't, you know, showing you crazy bangers or, you know, like usually PlayStation still drops crazy bangers and they've been consistent. PlayStation itself has been consistent. Like they've never had a year they didn't have some type of game that rang bells or made noise, but just not on the same level. You know what I mean? It just hasn't been on the same level. I chalk it up to COVID. I chalk it up to the mistake. Well, first of all, the first number one thing is the number one mistake was uh live service, putting Herman Hulse in charge, putting Jim Ryan in charge. Live service gamble that they screwed. That was the great idea, but they screwed up. And then, you know, their studios having to recover and now run rampant in the background trying to make a game for the PlayStation 6, basically. um, so outside of that though, they still did their thing. Sony still when they make their mistakes, they claw back. You know what I mean? They had bought, you know, they got the Stellar Blade. They went and made all these deals with these companies to help them build their games in other countries that video games are starting to become prominent there. To be ahead of the curve. They're selling in more places, which is smart. You know what I mean? It won't probably do as well because a lot of these places are built on PC, but it'll help them with their numbers regardless. And they're still doing great third party, second party, and indie deals. PlayStation Plus has been phenomenal. Thank you, Xbox and Game Pass, for that. While PlayStation may have came out first, y'all did it better. And because y'all did it better, PlayStation, as always, will step up their game by mimicking some of their things and then doing their own thing. So much appreciated. Don't need first party games to be in PlayStation Plus day and date because they still come to PlayStation Plus. Like that's what the thing that people don't talk about. Like you're going to get all first party games in PlayStation Plus at some point in time. You just got to be patient. Some come within 3 months, some come within six, some come within 12 months, some come 2 years later. But you'll eventually get to play it if you don't want to buy it. You know what I mean? Um, so the loading times, getting back to those Nintendo original Nintendo, the NES loading times, and people forget that like back in the day on them cartridges, almost all them games loaded instantly, didn't have a lot of loading times. You die, you get straight back to it. You know what I mean? Maybe you couldn't save and start exactly where you were. And that was part of the mystique, and that was a part of the challenge. Is like, oh, in Ninja Gaiden, I made it to the like final boss and I died all my times, and now I'm all the way back at the first stage, and I got to make it all the way back to him. But to get back, then again, back in the days, those games are only like an hour or 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? And what made them go for days and days and days and days was that you died and had to start all over. You know what I mean? And you had to learn the patterns and have the skills to pull it off to be able to do these things. So, you know, but the loading times were incredible, and we're getting back to that. So I appreciate it with these high graphic, high fidelity games with high frame rates and all that stuff, being able to load way faster than those systems. I turned on the Xbox One yesterday, and it was like a turtle. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, this is bad. PlayStation 3, super turtle. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just not good. It's not a good look. But yeah, that's my PlayStation. I want to say on PlayStation, as far as like fanboyism, I'm not a PlayStation channel. First of all, I want to make sure that's understood. I'm an entertainment channel. I kind of was talking about video games primarily because that's what I was interested in at the time. But I knew I wanted to talk about anime, music, and all that other stuff as well. So that's going to become a part of the channel as well. I'm just going to talk about entertainment in general. And even though I'm a PlayStation guy, I will talk about any video game console that I want. So for all the fanboys, you know what I'm saying? Enjoy the comment section, be angry, have fun. You know what I'm saying? Hit the dislike button, hit the like button, do whatever you want to do. Um, but I'm pretty sure PlayStation is about to bring it back around. I think Death Stranding, Ghost of Yote, uh, ending the year with those two is going to be the start of the ball starting to roll downhill. I think we'll get 3 exclusives next year, so you can pin that one. I don't know nobody. I don't got no insiders. That's just me. I don't think there'll be 3 huge exclusives. I think it'll be 1 huge exclusive, 1 double A, and then 1 indie type of level games that'll come out from PlayStation's first party next year. So, like something like that Gummy Bears BS, which is to me like gonna be some kind of indie PlayStation mobile game, right? I think they'll have like an Astrobot level game, and then they'll have like uh finally maybe Venom or something because damn sure ain't gonna be Wolverine. I'm PlayStation drop the Wolverine, bro. I'm tired of you. I don't care that shit leak, bro. That drink pisses me off. Or mothers, who cares that drink leak, bro? Like most people wouldn't even have known about the leak. Like the game spirit, that wasn't gonna change nothing. Like as long as you got Wolverine chopping off some limbs and getting busy for real, that drink would be fired. So if they went back to the drawing board to redo the whole game, y'all can kick rocks with that nonsense. So since y'all redoing the game or whatever, because the leak, you know what I'm saying, get your security together, Sony, because your security has been crap, period, just period, for years now. Get that crap together. And then Insomniac, yo, don't change too. Y'all already changed enough, bro. Let's get back to getting ready to drop this drink by next year. That's the game I want next year. Out of surprise that nobody was expecting. And it's Wolverine, and have Wolverine getting busy like The Last of Us. You know what I'm saying? I need that grittiness with The Last of Us, but also like ninja tactics because comic book Wolverine is trained by samurai and ninjas. So let him get busy. Since y'all taking him to the I forgot what the comic book space is. You would think I read comic books, but like I said, I've been blanking out all day today. Um, but I wanted to get this video off. I'm gonna do Xbox next, and then I'm gonna talk about the Switch. They'll probably be a lot shorter. Um, as far as I guess you could say fanboy him go, it's kind of boring on that space. I don't even really got a lot to say. Xbox dudes are still doing Xbox things. PlayStation dudes are still doing PlayStation things. And Nintendo people are out of the woodworks and definitely doing Nintendo things. It's very weird for all 3 sides. So that's it. I'm out.